Hi, and welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of Kevin MD. Today on the show, we have Praveen Suthrum. He's a healthcare entrepreneur, and he wrote the Kevin MD article, What Has Colon Cancer Screening Got to Do with Self-Driving Cars? And that's an excerpt from his book, Scope Forward. The future of gastroenterology is now in your hands. Praveen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I've long admired your work, so it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we'll get into your book and article in a little bit, but first off, can you just share your story and your journey to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm at the intersection of business, technology, and healthcare. And as you mentioned, I am a healthcare entrepreneur. I'm actually the co-founder and president of Next Services. Now, if you take the context of GI or any private practice system in the US or elsewhere, it's plagued with administrative hassles, technology hassles, and regulatory burden. What we do is, so we have a system that takes care of all of this for physicians. And in particular gastroenterologists. So that's where, I'm coming from, or that is the perspective that I'm coming from, and that set the context for Scope Forward. It helped me see, where the future is, and write about, especially from a business and technology standpoint, where the future of GI is going.
Let's get into that article. What has colon cancer screening got to do with self-driving cars? Now, for those who haven't read your article, can you just walk my audience through it and share the story of why you decided to share it?
So Kevin, back in 2012, I sat in a strange-looking Lexus, and it had a gray color scanner, a LiDAR scanner on top of the roof, and it was rotating all around. And inside there was a laptop, and there were wires that were running behind the steering wheel and elsewhere. As you might imagine, it was a self-driving car, and it was Google's one of their initial forays into autonomous vehicles. And back then, most of the auto companies dismissed the project, and they said it wouldn't be practical. Now, fast forward to today, there is not even one major auto manufacturer that doesn't have a plan for self-driving cars. So how did this happen? It happened because technology keeps improving in performance every few years, and the costs keep coming down, making this possible. And GI or gastroenterology and many aspects of healthcare are exactly in that place right now. If you talk to a gastroenterologist, and in this particular article, I touched upon colon cancer screening and DNA testing associated with colon cancer screening. So if you ask a gastroenterologist today, they would tell you that traditional colonoscopy is the gold standard for colon cancer screening. And they're absolutely right. And they would also tell you that any of the tests which are out there do not have the right level of sensitivity, or there would be many false positives and false negatives, and one must be careful. And again, they're absolutely right. But if you go back and correlate and connect the dots with the self-driving cars example, that with data, technology gets better, and this is digital biology. So just as with self-driving cars, even DNA testing would get better. And not only that, it wouldn't stop there. I've had plenty of conversations in writing Scope Forward. I come across and I've had plenty of conversations in the industry. It's moving towards liquid biopsy. Now with liquid biopsy, you're not only going to test for one cancer, colon cancer, you're going to test for 50, it's going to tell you a blood sample would tell you the results for 15 different types of cancers. Now, how would a gastroenterologist compete with something like that? So that is the premise of the article.
Tell me a little bit more about liquid biopsy. Is this a blood test, and what other cancers would it screen for?
So it would screen for all kinds of cancers, including colon cancer. But liquid biopsy is a blood test. Again, this is the holy grail of where digital biopsy is going. There are several companies, including, and these are all biotechnology companies, including public limited ones, that are working in this direction. We don't have it yet, but the whole idea would be take a blood sample and be able to find spot cancer in a blood sample.
And I could imagine that something like this would have far-reaching impacts beyond gastroenterology. It could certainly affect pretty much every area of medicine as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll cut into multiple specialties. And imagine, so right now during the COVID period, right? Like, so one of the companies that does stool DNA testing, for example, they started doing telemedicine too, just like the physician community. And they started, they were already sending kits home to patients, but now they were promoting that, hey, like, you can just stay at home and you can get your screening for cancer, just at home. Now imagine the possibility when the sensitivity of these tests improve, and the companies like them are able to tell patients that, look, don't worry, you don't even have to visit a doctor's office. We will test for 15 different types of cancers, and you don't even have to drink a liquid, or like you don't have to go through the pain of a colonoscopy or the inconvenience of a colonoscopy. You will know the results at home, and it'll come to you on an app. Lots of people and companies working on this, and the money, the technology, and the energy, and the number of heads working in this space is huge. So we are going to see solutions. And same with AI. Now when you combine digital biology and artificial intelligence and some of the other exponential technologies, then you have great momentum. It will be hard to stop this tsunami. It's not about fighting it or resisting it, but to take advantage of this wave and to do better for patient care and help more patients and reach more people out there.
Now, a lot of your Kevin MD articles have focused specifically on gastroenterology. Now, tell me, what are some other technological advances that may be in a pipeline that gastroenterologists can expect in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
If you take the field of advanced endoscopy, a lot of surgery is now happening through advanced endoscopy. And if you think back and ask, why that might be the case, the reason is because of more sophisticated robotics. Now, on the face of it, you may think that there's no correlation between robotics and gastroenterology, but it is actually very closely interrelated. The greater sophistication that we have in robotics, the manufacturers or the industry is able to make more sophisticated endoscopy equipment. And when you combine that with the kind of procedures that you're able to do, then you can perform procedures without making incisions in the body. So what does that mean for patient care? They get to go back home sooner because the recovery rates are faster. And at an earlier time, that would have been a general surgery procedure, for example. But right now, maybe an advanced endoscopist can do it. For the book Scope Forward, I interviewed an advanced endoscopist who specializes in removing dead pancreas, from the body, and he's a master at that, and it's fascinating. But his ability, would have only come about if the equipment exists, if that level of sophistication exists in technology. Now, combine that with the advances in imaging. Now we are talking about, if you look at what got released at CES last year, you see that we have all these 8K, 4K TVs or beyond, and so there's 8K TVs. So at some point, the eye cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's virtual. Once the imaging equipment gets more and more sophisticated. Now combine that in the endoscopy room. Combine that with sophisticated robotics, AI, and digital biology. Now, each of these technologies would interplay and multiply, creating an exponential wave, opening up completely new possibilities for patient care as well as for endoscopists.
Now, a lot of these innovations, are they happening in the United States or are they happening elsewhere in the world?
A lot of it happens in the US, but it happens globally. Especially, I've come across a lot of advances related to AI in gastroenterology in Japan, and it's a collective momentum, but a lot of it happens in the US.
We're talking to Praveen Suthrum. He's a healthcare entrepreneur, and he wrote the Kevin MD article, What Has Colon Cancer Screening Got to Do with Self-Driving Cars? It's an excerpt from his book, Scope Forward. The future of gastroenterology is now in your hands. Now, for the gastroenterologists that you consult with, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that they face in the foreseeable future?
Kevin, I could, talk to you about all the technology disruptions, the disruption from private equity-led consolidation, and the disruption from health systems consolidating, big insurance companies, big technology companies from Google, to Microsoft and Amazon, and big retailers like Walmart all coming into healthcare. And I could tell you that these are the big disruptors and they must watch out for this. But what I'd like to actually leave a gastroenterologist with is the biggest challenge that they're going to hit is their mindset, their own mindset towards change. And if they're able to actually work on the organ between their 2 years, 2 years, all of us, if we can use this phase of disruption and use the very things that are disrupting the field, use them as a tool to disrupt and propel ourselves forward. So that's what I would tell them.
Now, what's a common thing that a gastroenterologist currently does that you think is going to be disrupted first?
Screening colonoscopy. And they see it. If you look at Medicare data for the last 10 years, the payments or the reimbursements for screening colonoscopy have not gone up, and they're steadily on the decline. But it contributes to a reasonable portion of their income, right now. And yes, like so, if that gets disrupted, then you have other business issues that would come up. A lot of the private equity deals are based on physician productivity in the future. Now, my question to a lot of private equity companies that are in the GI field is that you're basing, a future productivity, but what if that productivity itself gets disrupted? Then what happens to the financial assumptions, that are made today? Another example, Kevin, is artificial intelligence in the endoscopy room. So if the AI is going to spot the polyps and classify them, and that technology is available today, it's out there. A lot of it is going through FDA approvals. So if that is out there, then it is going to set a new baseline for performance for endoscopists. That again becomes a big disruptor.
And other than changing their mindset, what could gastroenterologists do that could help them best adapt to these coming changes?
They must first educate themselves and develop a point of view, an independent point of view of the future. They must understand the big trends that are coming their way, and they must take practical next steps of what they must do. I'm working currently on a tool called the Scope Forward Growth Tool. We will be releasing it soon. What that helps gastroenterologists do is help them identify what level of practice they are, from a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across 6 different categories. So they identify where they are right now and what does the next level look like. So that becomes, very practical tool and guide for them to know, okay, I need to improve on my finances. I need to improve on my operations. I need to improve on the technology area, and then get into growth orientation, which would involve starting different ancillaries or getting into digital health, or developing a robust plan of action for consolidation in their region. So that's what I would say.
And my final question, what's your take-home message that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
To the Kevin MD audience, I would say that when you look around right now, things seem very disruptive, and there's widespread death, there's widespread infection from COVID, and there's economic disruption. There's all kinds of disruption, and it may seem very bleak. But then the situation is going to turn around. All that COVID has done is accelerate trends that were already underway. A lot of things that are happening now are really not new. It's just that this wave of tsunami has come at us closer and faster. So I would tell you to use these same disruptive forces to propel yourself forward, and you will come out stronger from this phase. And that is the message that I would like to leave you with.
Thank you so much for sharing your insight and time. And thanks again for being on the show.